Do you have to change your shoes to go out in the backyard?
Yeah, I do. So you didn't want to mess up your hair?
After I do the video, then I will. I'm going to be here all day. I just didn't think there's no
Well, you ain't going to be in the video, are you?
Well, I am. I'm going to talk about being founded too.
Oh. What did you get founded on?
Oh, I didn't. I'm just going to talk about the word and read out of the dictionary like I do. You want to hold on or you okay?
You want to take a shovel?
Yeah. Actually, I'd rather take this little bitty one right here.
I want you to get some
I
of
got
that
this little one.
flour.
Okay, let's try it with this little one. I can be more precise. That big one.
Let's take this to put it in. Or either that. I've got a pack of marigolds. Have you got any seeds?
I do, yeah.
But I don't know where I'm going to find them.
Maybe we can plant them somewhere like this.
This is my, it's today Wednesday. This is my old-timey mug. It comes from Mama's.
I need to get these.
Yeah, and I had a little yellow one too. And I fooled around and kept moving it around until I lost it.
Yeah. You might put some marigolds right there. That'd be a place for it.
They ain't grown.
Oh yeah, there is. Marigolds will just grow right there around that stuff. It'll be pretty. Watch for your pot.
Paul had been over out to school. He said, if you want to know those trees, I've got a pack in my bag. Oh, when I was a girl, I tell my children stories about when I was growing up. And of course back then it's so different than it is today. But when I was young, we lived in this big old house. And my brother-in-law, Woodrow, who was married to my oldest sister, he always made a big garden and got his food, his garden started early. So he brought Mama some new potatoes and garden peas. And Mama was such a good cook. And I wasn't much of a good eater, and I must have been hungry. So I ate those new potatoes and peas. I just couldn't quit. They were so good. And I foundered myself. And it made me sick. I'd ate so much of them, it made me sick. Mama didn't watch me. She didn't say, don't eat too much. And so I was so sick, and that big house had a big porch on the front of it. And I went out and laid down on the edge of the porch because I felt like I was going to throw up. And my brother James, he come to see about me. And I said, James, I'm going to die this time. I ain't going to make it. He said, yes. He said, no, you're not going to die. I said, go in there and get you some soda crackers and water. Or I'll get them, he said. And eat them, and you'll be all right. So that was, from then on, he was my favorite brother. Because he said, no, you're not going to die. And me and him was closer together, too. Lucky was my youngest brother. And he was quite a bit younger than me and James. So it's funny the things kids do when they're growing up. But for a long time, I couldn't eat new peas and new potatoes together, cooked together. Now, I still love them. And like Mama did, she'd put little new potatoes in her green beans when she had fresh green beans. And they made an awful good meal, too, to put the little potatoes in with your green beans. But it's just funny looking back, the things that kids will do and say. But James was my favorite brother. He was closer to me. course, I was attached to my big brothers too, because they always did stuff for me. And there's nothing like brothers and sisters. The older you get, the more you think about them and miss them.
Loose that is.
Huh?
I can see how loose that is.
Yeah. That little thing right there, pull that out. I get out here and pull them up, and I put them in the garbage.
Let me take these home with me.
Okay, do that.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pull them up. That's what I did.
That's the last flower that blooms in the fall that I've got.
Some people call them white and yellow Octobers.
I wish I hadn't let my little yellow ones get away from me, but I did. Shovel them up far, they're just weeds. That's an old broom. We need to water them.
Yeah. That should be good. Let's walk over there and see if we can plant a few more. We've got just a tiny few left. When I made the video about crackling cornbread, a lot of folks mentioned being foundered on cracklings, either on crackling cornbread or just on the cracklings themselves. And that reminded me of a story that I've heard Granny tell about being foundered when she was a little girl, eating fresh peas, spring peas, and new potatoes out of the garden. So eating that delicious fresh garden food, about being foundered on it. It reminded me of that. I've heard being foundered my whole life. Of course, if you have horses or you've been around horses, you know that horses can become foundered. It's a very dangerous situation for them. But I've heard it primarily, I have heard it in relation to horses, of course, but primarily I've heard it in everyday language when talking about overeating. So if you overeat on something, you'll hear someone say in Appalachia that they're foundered, that they foundered themselves. Sometimes, most of the time, if they truly do get foundered to the point that they get sick, it's usually whatever kind of thing they were eating, that becomes something they never want to eat again. You'll hear people tell stories of so-and-so got foundered on green beans when they were a kid and they won't never eat them again. They just couldn't even bear the thought of it. Granny, when she got foundered on her peas and taters, she didn't want them for a very long time, but she eventually did get over that. But that was it's a common thing, especially in a teasing manner, kind of like at Thanksgiving or Christmas or a special meal, maybe dinner on the grounds or at homecoming or something. You'll hear people say, you know, I've about eat till I got foundered, till I'm foundered. Well, they're not really sick. They're just saying that they eat a whole lot. But let's see what the dictionary of Smoky Mountain English has to say about the word foundered. So it says founder is a noun, to become ill from overeating. 1942, Chase, Jack tells, well, Jack eat about all the dinner he could hold, but the king's old woman kept on piling up his plate till he was plumb foundered. 1975, Great Smoky Mountains National Park, he'd get in the corn or something like that and eat too much and founder him, make him sick, and possibly kill him. A mule, you can't founder them by eating. I wonder if that's true. Somebody's watching if you've had mules and horses. Can mules be foundered? I don't know that. 1990, Fisher's Preacher Stories. An animal such as a cow or hog or horse is said to be foundered if it eats too much. At times, the term is applied humorously to human beings. So that's the humorous part, as was what I was talking about when I said most of the time over the years I've heard it said in more of a teasing manner. Now Granny's totally serious when she said she was foundered because she was so sick. She said to this day that's one of the sickest times that she's ever been in her entire life. So have you ever been foundered on something? Have you ever eaten so much of something that it made you sick? I can't really think of a time that I've done that. Of course, I've certainly ate stuff that didn't agree with me, but where I was truly sick from just overeating, I can't really remember a time like that. Like Granny was saying that she was a picky eater as a child, I was a picky eater, and sometimes I'm still picky about things that I eat, so I've never really overeaten to that point. I've certainly overeat on Thanksgiving or at Christmas or something and wished I hadn't eaten so much, but I'll be interested to know, have you ever been foundered, and are you familiar with the word foundered in the way that I've described the usage of it? But mostly, as always, I hope you'll keep on dropping by, talking about Appalachian language, and helping me celebrate Appalachia.